Park and Rec Commission meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Thank you for attending, the public viewers as well, and our special guests. My name is Kelly Rosecrans. Before we get started, let's do a round the table self introduction here at the beginning.
Greg Hepp, Alderman, District 6.
Zach Brewing, Mayor. Jay World, District 1.
Jim Shuchek, member.
Mary Wilasek, employee.
Matt Heidemann, Parks and Buildings.
And thank you. Okay, our first item on our agenda is to approve the August 27th, 2014 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mayor, seconded by Jim to accept. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the ayes have it. Item number 3, discuss the net condition at Witterfield Tennis Courts. I believe Barb Mancuso is here to speak on behalf of that. If you just step up and introduce yourself.
Sure. First of all, thank you for letting us be on your agenda today. And my name is Barb Mancuso. Dottie Ho was going to do this presentation, and she was called out of town at the last minute. So I am here representing Friends of Tennis. And I also have with me Jean Sorensen, who is a resident of Wisconsin Rapids, and Vicki Hess, who, her kids all go to school here, but she's in Portage County. For some of you that aren't familiar with Friends of Tennis, we formed in 2005. And we are a group that advocates for tennis in our Wisconsin Rapids community. We started then because the Lincoln courts were declared unfit for competition. So we needed to do something to keep promoting tennis in our community. I'm just gonna look at my notes to let you know what we've done in the past since 2005. Some of those things, we've raised funds in our community for backboards, windscreens, tennis benches, bleachers, trash containers. We helped with the reconstruction of the existing 6 courts at Lincoln, plus the additional 3 courts. And then we also recently have paid to have those 9 courts resurfaced at Lincoln. We've hosted community tournaments for Wisconsin Rapids. We've done summer leagues. With the help of United States Tennis Association, we funded tennis in the schools in our Wisconsin Rapids School District. We put on an in-service for every Phi-Ed teacher in the district. We provided nets, curriculum, tennis balls, and tennis rackets for every elementary school in Wisconsin Rapids. So that kind of gives you a brief overview of our activities. Now you're asking me why I'm here. And the reason I'm here is we have had several tennis players in our community request that we revisit with your commission the opportunity to change the fence nets at Witter to put in the standard nets. Why? Because none of the 4 nets at Witter or the 4 nets at Mead are regulation. Also, they do not have center straps attached, which is helping with serve and stabilizing the nets, which is also part of regulation courts. I participate, and so do these ladies and many others, on a United States Tennis Combo League, a USTA league, and we've done this for many years, but we've had to go to Gerke Park and Stevens Point because they have regulation courts and lights, and because we are in the fall and we need daylight to play on, or lighted courts. While we're playing over there, we've also seen other Wisconsin Rapids citizens playing also for those same facts that they need regulation courts and lights. So I also want to mention that many times after we play in the league, we go out for dinner and a beverage at the local establishments. So that's something to take into consideration too. I have coached at Lincoln for 21 years, 27 years overall, and we host, I don't coach there anymore, I am retired now. I am loving it, but the boys team and the girls team host many tennis invitationals in the spring and the fall, where we bring in 7 other teams. We are usually the 8th team throughout the state. And we have used Witter in the past, but now we're starting to hear complaints from the coaches that they don't want to play on regulation courts, that courts that are not regulated. Many times our matches run late, and we've had to move players over to Witter Court to finish matches, again because of the lights, and the coaches have that concern now also. So what would this entail? Well, obviously, we would need new tennis nets. Tennis nets run about $120 to $180 a piece, depending on the quality and the warranty that goes with it. Lincoln always got their courts, or their tennis nets from Team Sports up in Marshfield. When you get a tennis net, that does include the center strap. We would need the ratchet system, which allows you to raise and lower the courts or the nets so that you can get them up to regulation height with just a small crank. I have looked at the posts over at Witter and Mead. I am not mechanically inclined, so I would have to defer to your maintenance crew to see if the present court or the present posts, they are capped, if they could be modified to accommodate for regulation nets. So that would be something that, like I said, I would have to defer to. If we do have to replace the poles, that's also a consideration. So with the posts, the ratchet system and the nets, it would roughly run between $400 and $500 a cord, and that does not allow financially for taking out the old posts. So I'm hoping maybe they can be modified. I want you to be aware of they would have to be put up in the spring and taken down in the fall, and there would have to be a place to store them. Years ago, when we had talked to the commission about this, one of the concerns was vandalism to the nets. As a group, we feel now with the skate park there, the improved baseball field, and a lot more traffic on 8th Street, we feel that this might not be an issue right now. And I can also tell you, after coaching at Lincoln for 21 years, our tennis courts are located behind the parking lot, through the woods, in the dark, and in 21 years, we've never had damage to our nets, which is a good thing. But I've learned never say never or always. I also want you to know that Friends of Tennis would be willing to donate $1,000 to the city for this project. And we would only do this at Witter because the lighting is better there, and I credit the city for doing a nice job of maintaining those Witter courts. So, did I forget anything, you two, or anything you would like to add?
I just think that if we could have, we wanted to say that we could host some combo matches here in Rapids during the summer, like we're running over to Point all the time to play. Those ladies who were playing would stay here, they'd go to the restaurants, they'd shop here, like what we're doing in Point all the time. It would be nice to have them come here and host a few matches here.
Also, the teams, high school teams bring players in, as you well know, and they always have families that support them, and they also then use our restaurants and gas up before they go home. In the leagues, there's ladies from Wausau and Stevens Point and Wisconsin Rapids, so it's central Wisconsin. It's just not Point and us. Would you have any questions offhand?
How many people are involved with this? Like when you have a get together?
Sure. Well, when I ran Summer League years ago, and Mary and I were in a very good cooperation, people would register through the rec department. People that were living in Rapids did not pay the fee, but if they were living outside of Rapids, then they paid the rec department a fee. We had as many as 120 people playing at that time because I did the scheduling, and that was a nightmare. And we used all the courts because we had to accommodate so many people. Right now, the numbers have dropped off a little bit, but I think things cycle. And the courts aren't as user-friendly right now because of the fence nets. So in answer to your question, anywhere between 40 and 50 right now in the Summer League. The combo leagues are an addition to that, the high school participants in addition to that, possibly rec classes at night, tournaments, that type of thing.
And how many times, once a week, or how many times?
Once
do
a
you-
week.
It is.
There's other leagues too. There's 4-0 leagues, there's combo leagues, there's 3-5 leagues, all sponsored by the United States Tennis Association. And I think it's a nice reflection on our city to stay up to date on things.
So what is the total cost?
Roughly per court would be between $400 and $500.
How
That would
many courts?
include the nets, there's 4 courts.
4 courts, so,
We're only talking Witter now.
Yeah.
We're not talking Mead at this time. And because the lighting is better at Witter and the courts are better maintained at Witter. So that would include the net posts if we need them. I don't know if we're gonna have to modify those or not. That would include the nets, and that would include the ratchet system to get the nets to regulation height each time we use them. Good question, Jim.
I think the last time we upgraded that, Southwood County put money in, that must be 25 years ago.
We did a resurfacing, I believe it's 3 years ago now.
Okay,
And it was about 30,000.
really? So you got quite a bit invested there, and it's not really suitable for proper play, what you're telling us.
Well, if you were a basketball coach, would you want your team, whether they're female or male, to play at basketball hoops that are lower than the regulated height?
We did raise them, by the way.
I measured yesterday.
Yeah, we got within an inch.
Unfortunately, sometimes, I know there's a pumpkin gathering there on October 30th, and not everybody's familiar with tennis etiquette. So you might have people sitting on top of the nets instead of walking around them. And every time that happens, they lower a little bit, which is no fault of the department whatsoever. It's just people not knowing proper etiquette. I can remember one time I had a player who was so excited and he scissors kicked over the net and his foot got caught in it and he went down and out came the post. So things like that happen. But it's an attempt to make them regulations so we can do more things in our community at Witter.
Move to approve the funding of up to the entire cost of retrofitting the nets at Witter Field. And I say up to, if there's other donations or contributions that come throughout the process, we'll factor
Well,
that
we
in.
would donate
Yes.
$1,000.
So whatever the balance out of the room tax allocation, park outlay dollars.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by the mayor and seconded by Chad, Alderman World, to outlay the money for the court improvements, the nets. Go ahead, Chad.
One question, if the posts do need to be replaced, is that something that the city crews can do, or does that have to be put in by a special contractor?
I'm guessing we could probably do it. I don't know if it would be done this time of year though, because we probably have to cement around the post. But I'd like to see the crank mechanism so that we could take a look at it and see if it's something we can adapt to what we currently have.
I would be happy to meet you at Lincoln High School at your convenience,
That'll work.
and I carry a little crank in my tennis bag.
Okay. Do you have a mechanism anywhere?
It's attached to the net post.
Right, but what can we, well, maybe if I look at yours, I can take
Yeah.
a picture of it and get an idea for dimensions is what I'm looking for.
Sure, I would, like I
Sure.
said, be happy to meet with you.
Okay.
The net cord runs over the top of the net at Lincoln and then you craned it.
Okay.
And then the posts out here are capped on the top,
Mhm.
so I'm not sure.
The caps come off.
Oh, good. That I couldn't do.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's what we'll do then.
I'll give you my phone number and we'll get together.
I just wanted to start out with Witter Field. When in the future do you think you would be coming back to maybe do some improvements at Mead?
Have any of you driven by Mead courts lately?
They were a little weedy this summer.
They're
benches.
on schedule to get the same treatment basically that Witter got. What it's gonna amount to is pressure washing down to the original surface crack filling and then recoating.
There's cracks on all 3 courts.
The
The
deep is-
expansion areas are way deep. Someone could fall there and have an accident. The benches are broken, they're wooden benches, they're not weatherproof. They're chipping in paint.
I don't know whose benches those are, they're not the city's.
I think there's
Assumption High School, and they don't even play there anymore, and why they haven't been removed, I don't know, because that's again another accident waiting to happen. But that's why we're focusing on Witter, because this commission has maintained the courts at Witter very nicely. We certainly appreciate that. And then you said that's on the agenda, and I know money is tight.
Yeah, we're planning on giving that the same treatment, so hopefully it'll turn out
That would be
the equivalent
wonderful.
to what we have at Witters.
Any other,
Well, so in the future
When
then,
are
they,
you-
they were talking about when we would get to meet. Right now, we have in our Friends of Tennis account, Barb, about $1,000.
yes,
Because I continue, when Barb retired with the Wednesday Night League, I took over. And so the monies that we have left over from the league after buying balls for the kids, well, the adults too, and then paying the city for the insurance for the non-city residents. I mean, I hope to continue to do that, and so there'll be, some monies coming in each summer. As much as we can promote this league for the high school students and the adults, to continue to generate some revenue. That eventually, depending on how far down the line we're talking about redoing needs, that we would have some monies continuing to build up from the summer league anyway.
which we're nonprofit.
Well, that's my question, when is that on the plan, do you know? Is that for next summer?
This coming year,
This
hopefully.
coming year?
Mhm.
Because would it make sense, did I hear you say you were moving to pay the entire situation at Witter? Are there 2 courts at Mead?
4.
Or there are 4 at Mead too?
Mhm.
They do that with the project though, I'm thinking,
I'm just
Well,
wondering if
we're
it's
getting-
cheaper to do the, I don't know. With the $1,000, that would cover maybe 2 courts? Does that cover about 2 courts, do you think?
At Witter,
1,000?
but we're saying to do the entire
4
project,
courts.
or at
Yeah.
least do it one at
Well, just to the
Witter,
Nets- to the
$500
Nets
per
need-
court.
Are the Nets an issue over there as well?
Yeah, the metal
Yeah.
nets.
And the nets would come down at the time that we would do the resurfacing. So if you were gonna switch them, it would do them at the time that we did the resurfacing.
and the mechanism to attach a center strap is already in place at both courts. When they were installed, that was there. But right now, it's really not being used.
Are there lights at Mead?
There are, but unfortunately, there's a bank of 2 courts and 2 courts.
Yep.
On the first 2 courts, there's 2 lights that shine here. And at the end of the courts, there's another 2 lights that shine on courts 1 and 2. And then there's only 2 lights that shine on 3 and 4. They've been removed from the far posts. So the lighting isn't as good. Actually, it's very hard to see in courts 3 and 4.
Are they sharing those with the, does the ball field need some of that light somehow?
It could, I noticed, the 2 that were on that far end for courts 3 and 4 are now missing and probably shining more toward the ball fields,
They have to do that. Well,
which, that's why we're focusing on Witter right now, because of the lighting, the care of the courts, closeness to competition for Lincoln, that type of thing. Any other concerns or questions?
there is a motion on the floor then by the mayor, seconded by Alderman World to approve funding for the new nets at the Whitterfield complex along with the ratcheting mechanism. And does that include anything for Mead, Matt looking into the improvements at Mead? Or that's just on his?
I think when he puts his outlay request together
Okay.
for next year, I would say we'd include the
The next-
nets,
The
the
nets.
ratchets, the mechanisms at that point.
And whatever
That's why
lighting,
we need
lighting needs.
Okay, so then approve the funding along with their $1,000 to make the improvements. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Well, thank you so much for your time and consideration. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Be nice to see you all out on those courts.
Do you provide lessons, tennis lessons as well?
I would throw in some free lessons, you bet.
Well, to be free, I can make a donation to your cause.
Could you maybe keep us updated on that, like next summer or something, make just an appearance and let us know how things are going, things like that, or something?
We would be
Just-
happy
just-
to.
Just let us know.
We would be happy to, and then I'm also gonna give you my phone number to meet you at Lincoln Courts, sir,
Yes.
if that's okay. Thank you.
I don't.
Yes. Well, I saw that, it's.
I'm guessing.
That's what happens when you walk in under the gun. I know, that's what she said. I said, oh, Colleen's not coming. But it's good that you're here. You're welcome. Oh, and you're gonna need this one.
Okay, thank you very much, Barb, and you're welcome to stay or leave. So,
If you don't mind, I think we're gonna just head out.
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you much.
Have a good evening. Okay, we'll move into item number 4, the introduction of the Pool Advisory Committee. And I believe the mayor will speak on this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so there's a little bit of background for the entire commission, and maybe those that are watching. The Pool Ad Hoc Committee has been formed by the council. Members on that ad hoc committee are Alderperson Rayon, who's here, Alderperson Terry Dolan, and Alderperson Greg Hepp, and Kelly and Colleen from the commission as representatives from this body to be on that committee. So we met last night, so we're off and running. Last night's meeting was primarily to look at objectives for the group. What are some of the objectives the group is going to work towards? And those objectives were presented, and I'll read them off for those that may want to have questions or suggestions or comments on them. The first was to quantify the existing public aquatic offerings usage. Essentially, that translates to the pool's current usage. Review the recommendations of the 2012-2016 recreation plan, which indicated to collaborate with community partners and touched on a regional component. To explore the extent in which a new aquatic facility could serve the needs of all members of the public, from children to seniors, and to work to understand the residents' desires in a public aquatics facility. So essentially, what's the public want in their facility? And then the committee is charged to produce a summary of its findings in December for full city council consideration. And as a note to members of this group and others, meetings are open to the public, anybody that wishes to attend, and they're noticed. So if people want to get noticed of what they are, pay attention to the clerk's office's notices, because that's how they're distributed. Prior to the formation of the ad hoc committee, the city council did approve a resolution to commit to ensuring an aquatic offering remains in the city of Wisconsin Rapids. So committing to a public aquatics offering for residents. And I've got the resolution if people are interested in reading the resolution. I won't read it, but so that's really where the aquatic ad hoc committee is at, was to review objectives last night, work to set a time frame or a timetable for its work and upcoming meetings. At our next meeting, we anticipate a presentation from the YMCA as to the proposed project with the Riverview Hospital Association on their property, just to understand what opportunities might exist for partnering in that venture. And then the committee will continue to evaluate that and anything else that's in front of it. Given the extent or the maybe concerns we've got with the main pool, there's really no time at the present to deal with that and to look for another alternative. So the committee's work is not to look at mead pool and Band-Aids and anything else. That's outside of our scope. That stuff can still happen. It's not what the committee's gonna get caught up in. I think we had at least one meeting at the pool in the last year of this commission, so we're all well aware of the challenges. Matt has put together a draft, I'll call it draft state of the pool report, and we're gonna be reviewing it as staff and get some comment from other people, and then put together a full report so the commission and the public can take a look at the state of the pool and really understand some of the really significant challenges that we're faced with as it approaches its 37th year of life. I think the reality, and I can speak for Matt, it's been shared, is that we may have one season, we may have, depending on what happens until the pool's open again next year, we may not have any time left, but the hope is that we'll operate it at least for one more season and determine from that point how much longer we can operate it. So I entertain questions. Obviously, Colleen and Kelly are here, and Greg is here too, to answer questions from the ad hoc committee's meeting last night. I do have a presentation I can give you, it's a skeleton of what we discussed at our meeting. It essentially mirrors what I already read off in terms of objectives. Do you have any comments, suggestions, questions? So
I'm excited about it. I went home, thought about it, and I was happy with last evening. I know it's an aggressive timetable, but it's very worthwhile. So.
Yeah, thank you. And I think what was questioned last night and I think has been responded, our first sort of work area is to get through some of the things with the objectives, but then to really take a good hard look at the opportunity that's presented itself with the YMCA Collaborative to determine whether or not there's an opportunity there. And if there's not an opportunity there, then we need to take that one step further and begin a path that is a little bit longer probably than a December timeframe, but to consider what other alternatives might exist.
Is the YMCA project an indoor or an outdoor pool?
The aquatics facility is entirely indoor. There is an outdoor component to it.
That really doesn't fit for the kids in the summertime, does it? An indoor.
That's what we have to discuss. That's the committee has to figure out is what's the appetite for an outdoor option. Yeah, we did talk a little bit about the splash pad and those features that are pretty large now. There's a you could kind of spend as much as you want on something like that and still get an outdoor option. There is something considered in the YMCA project, and I'd anticipate whether it's not there or somewhere else at another park in the city or at Mead Pool, maybe having an outdoor option. But the committee is not concerning itself with just a straight replacement of an outdoor tank pool. Not to say that they may not recommend that or consider that, but at this point, that wasn't part of their thoughts.
I've always felt that a new pool, because it's encompassing all the areas, Burinus goes down, Nakusa goes down, that it should be, funded by the county.
I agree.
And, from my experience, if you go to the county, they're gonna say, well, Marshfield has don't have one either. Well, the kids need one there just as much as they need here. It should be funded by the county because it's taken in all these areas.
It's all taxing entities.
Rather than the city having to carry the load and then start charging out of city kids and stuff like that.
And I don't think that's necessarily out of
Yeah.
parameters. I think, in fact, I don't know who dropped it. Matt, I'm looking at you because maybe you dropped it. Somebody dropped it and maybe Nick printed it off. An article from the Marshfield News Herald to that exact subject of Marshfield. So if there's an opportunity maybe again to say to the county, if there's a contribution to be had that doesn't tax ourselves, as a local municipality, maybe there is a regional funding or formula that's pulled together. I would just, tread lightly on it, but I think I'm with you 100%. Whether it's a library, whether it's Humane Society, what you name it, there's no reason we shouldn't be funding these things on a regional basis. But that's unfortunately what's been handed to us with all these factions of municipalities. To that point, though, it is, I think, my hope, and I'm not sure other committee members as well, that there's an opportunity for these other municipalities to join at some point. But I say that with qualification.
Very
We're not
difficult.
going to delay our planning and our process without or by somebody saying, well, I'm not sure if we're going to participate. We need to do something, we need to do something very soon, and we can't allow some of these towns and villages to teeter-totter. we've got to lead, and I think that's our charge with the community anyway.
I know from the city's experience that negotiating with the other communities can be very difficult.
It's all timing and politics, there's a lot to it.
Well, we need a pool, that's for one thing for sure.
And it's our hope that through the access discussion, we can get a flavor from the public as to, for example, Mead Pool is open between 56 and 70 days the last 3 years. So that's all for 7 hours a day. While we had great attendance, I think from 9,500 kids or people to 6,000, there's definitely a need for it. So I think we're in agreement there. It's a matter of how we slice this.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Yes, we're gonna need all of that and whatever else is available to get through this.
Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, Mayor. Okay, we move along. Item number 5 here, we want to discuss the 8th Avenue Plaza site. I believe Alderman Chad World, were you gonna bring something up on that, or?
The only thing that, there's some confusion with, is it a park? Is it city public works property? Is it, we use it a lot for our neighborhood get-togethers, neighborhood Ward 1 projects, and cleanup site is our go-to center. And we would like some power there to run some Nesco cookers and coffee pots and what have you. And so we don't know where to request funding for it for a 2015 project for spring. Does it come out of Park and Rec? Does it come from Jim Borski's budget? Is it a park that's mowed and maintained by the Parks Department? I guess, Sue, if you can.
It's not a park. It would have to be designated a park by the council. And I think maybe this conversation is, well, should it be, does it make sense to make it a park? Because there are certain things that happen in a park that don't happen, I'm just thinking kind of legally. There are state statutes regarding parks, but different statutes regarding just street right of way and, city property, so.
So what's it considered now, just city
It's
property?
not a park, yeah, it's just
Just
city property, right. So I think maybe the discussion was first gonna be, well, is there any wish that it actually be a park? I mean, that's,
Well, I
I
don't
guess
know.
that's what I was
I
told.
don't know where to go with it. I don't know what to do. All I know is I just want an outlet there.
And to Chad's request, we did get prices from Water and Light and from an electrician and figured out what our time would be into it. And what the total comes up to is $2,375.
Well, that's better than the first quote we got a year ago, which was right around 5.
Yeah, Water and Light gave us a quote of $1,375. The electrician gave us a quote of $500, and then we figured we have to saw cut and move that. Why they came up with the conduit where they did is beyond me, but to saw cut that, move that conduit to the pole, we figured another $500, and that gets you that total of $2,375.
It's just one of those deals where, prior planning, when they put that in, it would have been nice if somebody was thinking ahead and thought, geez, someday we'd like some power here for lights or whatever, for future, so I'm a little disappointed that it wasn't thought of when they put that in.
Yeah, and I don't know when that was constructed. That had been when that road was redone.
05, 06, 05.
On why they put a gazebo without designating, consideration of what it should be. A park, is it just a meeting place,
There
what
you
is
go.
it? I had a question I'd sent to Jim and Chad, maybe you saw the email this afternoon about, is that gonna be metered?
Yes,
So there's a meter charge in that?
yes.
Okay, that's an issue I personally have with the fact that now we're gonna put power there for maybe twice a year and we're gonna be metered.
Yes, you will. There'll be a monthly meter charge.
What is a normal monthly meter charge for minimum for that?
I don't wanna throw a number out there without,
$10, I think it's,
I wanna say it's a little more than that, maybe like between 10 and 15, but
we got that's my issue, is an annualized cost. I personally think it maybe makes sense to put power, or at least an access point. Question is, do we need it to this extent? They put those festoons or whatever they're called over here on West Grand downtown.
mhm.
Is there a way to retrofit one of those poles so they can get access?
But you gotta run it 100 feet from the nearest pole. We've done that. Water and Light has strung up extension cords for me, but
Up to the outlet that's up by the top?
then they tape it all the way down with tape, and then you're running a trip hazard of a big thick orange cord through the grass when you got, 50 volunteers running around.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Do you want that 100-foot cord draped through the grass or along the sidewalk? So I just thought up by the building on one of the posts would be the best suit
Are
for
those
that.
directional signs lit? The Metcalf, there's a monument sign, are those lit back?
That's a good question.
I don't think so.
They're just monument signs.
Yeah.
That maybe there'd be power to there.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so, they're just
So I guess the pros of making it a park would be the extent that it could be reservable. Do we want it reservable? Do we want to charge for electricity? I mean, there's some things I think that almost, the pros of making it a park is you have that ability, but then it's also not an expense to a group to do something if they want to request electricity. If it stays not a park, if there's funding sources available to fund this, it's just a matter of doing it for one event a year, or 2 events a year, and then annualized cost of it. I don't know what other people have for their thoughts, that's just my 2 cents.
What do you use it for?
Our our spring and fall volunteer project groups.
So would other groups maybe use it if there's electricity there? I mean,
I don't know, I can't answer that.
That'd be one of your premier sculpture areas, Joe.
I was thinking if you could, I don't know what the payback is on, putting some alternative like PV up on the roof of that thing and a few batteries over it, then you need an inverter to get the 110 for the outlets, but there may be something like that too that over time would pay back rather than that 10-month or $15 a month meter charge too.
And they won't run power without a meter.
No, in fact, we're having issues even with water, with meters for 1-day events or 2-day events. That's getting to be an issue.
Nothing's ever simple and easy, but if it was a request, I don't know where it goes from here.
So tonight's question again is whether or not we want to refer it to park and, or finance a property and make it a park. Not necessarily.
Sue, do you have, I'm just curious
Well-
where your angle would be or what?
Well, I guess, I was reviewing the agenda for something else and I saw that, and I saw it said Park Plaza Park. And then I'm like, well, there's no park at Park Plaza. So then I think I went and talked to the mayor and I think, and I basically said, well, Park and Rec Commission can't make it a park. It has to be the council makes it a park. So maybe the better discussion is, what is the use of that piece of property in terms of if it has electricity or not, is it a park, or otherwise it's just gonna be a simple go to finance and get the money, or, or if it can be somewhere in the current budget as something that was, budgeted just as kind of a operational thing, probably be best to go to finance though, and then just leave the whole park thing out of it. But I don't know, if you're gonna make it a nice, attractive place and they're gonna have electricity, then maybe people won't wanna rent it, and so then do we wanna? But if it's really just for a couple of Nesco roasters 2 times a year.
Well, that's what I mean, but I
And there's
mean,
really nothing else there.
Yeah,
So then it's probably not, we're not gonna call it a park, you should just go to finance or,
The first time I
Yeah.
inquired about it, nobody said about a meter charge and all this other
Yeah.
hidden stuff. Now all of a sudden, now we're talking meters and making a big project out of it. The initial $2,000 for some outlets, to me, is not a lot of money
No.
to put it there, but it's the $150 plus a year to keep the meter running.
It needs some trees.
So, I don't know, does anybody else have any thoughts or concerns or?
Is there ever a group or an individual that would like that particular spot to do a display of something? I mean, if it were available in the city for someone to display something there. I mean, I know you got a lot of, anything, just a glass blower, or anybody, that's something that they could rent it for the day and advertise that, okay? Just,
And then you have to have
To
a park
utilize
if it's gonna be rented, right? I mean,
well, then usually, right,
because you have to have some
Otherwise-
mechanism to track it, to,
right.
you know,
Otherwise, I guess we could just consider that it's, it's a place where, on public property where you could have vendors and then they'd have to go through the vending permit process, but, there's no reservation then of that, just of city property.
it's very hard to reserve something that's open to the
Yeah.
public. I mean, it's hard to, you're gonna tell people you can't go there, it's reserved.
I think it's, the simple answer is it's not a park. Go to finance and get the money, and then maybe it turns in, at some point it might turn into something bigger, and then address it at that time in terms of its use. But if it's, I just don't think it's probably at a park place right now.
It's adjacent to a very busy street.
Yeah,
Well, if it's, you're talking with a meter, what, $250 a year. So if you get somebody put some advertising up there and pay you $250, just like a board, or they got the banners in the rink or boards on the baseball fields. Somebody wants to sponsor the site and pay $250, it'll take care of your meters. It would be put on their advertising that they're paying for that. I don't know.
Why don't they charge for the request of running that power? Did they charge you, or did they charge you, Matt, or Chad?
To look at it and give an estimate?
No, I'm sorry, to,
They did not
to
charge
run the-
anybody that day for the afternoon for the power.
Okay.
As of yet.
Well, that was in May.
Their bills can run anywhere from 6 months to a year.
December 31st, when
Yeah.
you begin that bill.
Well, I'll pay the $7.
Well, it's the labor and all of that that they like to charge for.
well, any more discussion on this, or do we table it, or think about it, or?
unless you want to donate your park outlay money to the city to, pay for it, I guess that's.
Well, you said in the past, the city of Rapids doesn't need any more parks. We don't want to take on any more land when we talked about that playground area.
I mean, we're mowing that, we're maintaining that already today, so it's not like taking on new parks if that affects it. I just don't know, to the point of the size, the location, calling it a park, I think is too much. I think it can stay what it, I have no problem with it, an attraction, that people want to host a meeting or something, but Howard's just gonna have to not.
Okay, well, thanks for discussion and probably move on to F&P.
All right. Thank you. We move into item number 6 here, update on the sculpture park, and we have Mr. Jim Lucas is here today. Is there anything you wanted to say? We see what you put together for us here. Has everybody read that?
Yeah, that was just what, at the last meeting, I think 2 months ago, I put something together with some information that Jim had given me, Jim Lucas, and kind of what Point was doing. So that was just kind of me and Jim going through their agreement for the exhibits So I guess, I don't know if any of you had time to kind of review it.
I just have a couple questions. If you look at number 5, it talks about transportation, installation, maintenance, and removal. Installation is really never addressed, and I don't see that in there. I see the transportation piece, and then it moves on to, you know what I mean? I'm not, or am I missing something? Because then it goes, 5.2 is maintenance, and 5.3 is taking it away, so I think we just missed a paragraph or something.
It's supposed to be by the artist, transportation to and from the site. You don't have a 5.1?
I
But
do,
she means
but there's no installation.
I mean, that could be just drop it off.
Yeah.
Oh, installation, okay.
Installation,
Yeah, I thought there was somewhere else where it's.
So I'm saying it's almost like
Maybe
a
I
paragraph is
lost it.
missed because there are 3 paragraphs that each address one of those items and I just don't see the installation piece.
On this sheet, we've got the 5.2 and the 5.3 in the back side. And
That's maintenance and then.
it says, yeah, maintenance shall be responsible for the maintenance of the city.
And removal.
I guess I'm curious to what the maintenance would be from
Well,
this.
can we back up to the installation? Maybe that was in the invitation. There was something about
Yeah.
installation is somewhere in it, I just,
Well, there's
Maybe
something
it's
about like installation and de-installation down in 7.3 they talk, and in 7.2, it talks about installation and de-installation, it just says if they are performing the installation and de-installation, and then, 5.3, it says the artist has to take it out, de-install it. So it's kind of contradictory too, but it really doesn't.
Right.
It's like there should be it's almost like there should be a 5.4.
Right.
And 5.2 should be installation, 5.3 maintenance. I mean, I'm not trying to be picky, I didn't see where it talks about installation. And the other question I had was, talks about the honorarium, and it says that sponsors will be, in number 6, sponsors shall be solicited by city or others. And yet in the guideline here, it says Central Wisconsin Cultural Center shall solicit, so I wasn't clear. And then sponsors reimburse the city for honorariums, and my question there is, why don't the sponsors just pay the artist directly? Unless there's some reason for that.
I have the same question on number 6, is, the city should not be liable if there's no sponsor, should they? If there's no sponsor, the city's not gonna be liable for paying this art.
For the honorarium?
Yeah.
if there's no sponsor, there's no piece of art.
Well,
Right.
then why wouldn't it say the sponsors shall be solicited by it's gonna be by the Central Wisconsin Cultural Committee,
Well,
right?
right, but this agreement is between the city and the artist, whether the city has an agreement with the cultural center or to do certain tasks that are I guess maybe the main point is the artist isn't necessarily responsible for the solicitation of the sponsors. But I mean, that's kind of the issue is some of this is just how do you want it, it can be however you want it to be. Whether whether the cultural center people solicit for sponsors or you make the artists do that and come and then how does that money flow? If it was paid directly to the artist, then it's probably not, it might not be as much of a tax break to the sponsor as if it was given to the
Oh, I
city
see.
as part,
So
or a
it's a tax-
nonprofit,
it's a tax
even
matter.
even the cultural center, I guess, would be kind of the pass through. I think that was kind of the thinking on that, but I mean, that could be however you would like it to be.
So it's a break for the sponsor, but it filters through somewhere.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
think so, more so than
Gotcha.
other, just
Which would
paying
be
someone
more,
directly,
would it
right.
send someone maybe to sponsor it?
Mhm.
I just didn't understand But who's soliciting, the city or the cultural center? Because it's number 6 and then on a single page it's number 2 and they,
Right, I mean, you could, some of the ones I was looking at, like, actually had certain rules for an exhibition that might be more specific than what the agreement was, or, you know, there might be a different thing of how they wanted to handle that exhibition and how long the exhibition was, so those are kind of some additional rules, so I think I kind of pulled out some of those things and just said, well, these are kind of proposals on some, how it's done other places and other instances, so
okay,
these can certainly be pulled into the agreement,
I see.
you know, anything that's on that last sheet.
Okay, I thought these went together.
Like I said, I really haven't. So I guess, you know, the main thing is to figure out the, you know, do you want to do something like this? If so, do you want to be in charge of, you know, have more hands-on in this, what happens? Or I think the cultural center has, it's my understanding that they're willing to kind of step up and help through this process so that you don't necessarily have to jury all of these exhibits. And then another part of that is that then, I mean, they don't have to we don't have to notice a meeting when they're going through all of these exhibits to be displayed. It's more, we kind of defer to them to assist in that, and then I think we have that you still have the final, I don't remember how we left that, whether they would make a recommendation to you, I think. But
So what you're saying is that the agreement between the cultural group and the city should be part of it. There should be another agreement, and we're looking at both.
well, right, an
Assume-
understanding of what their role is, and Right.
So you can't really approve one without the other, can you?
well, I guess what I'm looking for, I don't think I'm necessarily looking for an okay on this agreement, because I think,
Okay.
you know, that should be cleaned up some more, but it's like, do you want, you know, you wanna do this, do you wanna pursue it, what's the framework of it? You know, when is it gonna start, where are the locations, and then I think, you know, Jim and I can figure out all these little details and get them tied up a little tighter, once you kinda know what, you know, how you want it to be, and I don't know, Jim, if you have any thoughts on, you know, how practically it would work at the cultural center, or,
The cultural center board is supportive of the idea, and we can use the term cultural center, although I think in reality, there's going to be a committee.
okay,
That will be the Sculpture Park Committee, spearheaded by the cultural center, and hopefully the committee would have somebody, at least 1 or 2 people from this group. I think some local art teachers and you know, anybody else that would be interested perhaps. From I guess the other cultural, perhaps the theater and the Arts Alliance Board, that group in general would comprise the Sculpture Park Committee. And then to answer, I guess, that previous question, the Cultural Center would solicit the sponsorships and handle those payments as well. Unless there's a real specific reason that it's because it's your land that you have to do it. Otherwise, the board has supported the idea of us doing it, like the board of the Cultural Center board.
yeah, I don't see an issue with it, that it has to really even, you know, run through the city.
Okay.
I mean, you're finding you're finding the sponsor and then turning the money over to the artist, so I don't see how that would need to go through us. And I think at this point, I don't know if Point runs theirs through actually their city, or if it's more.
It is through the city.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it really matters which way it's done.
The other thing I had is attachment B, the maintenance requirements and procedures where the artist will say what the maintenance procedures are. Would that form require the signature of the artist and the signature of somebody like Matt agreeing to?
Right.
Okay, so that would be provided, but there would be, each of them have to sign off that this is what was agreed to.
I question that too, Jim, because there could be some pretty unrealistic expectations.
You have to
that-
agree to it.
Right,
Right,
right.
and you wouldn't accept the sculpture if it, if
You
it's.
know, I mean, if
It's
one
not
of
gonna
the-
get picked if
Yeah.
it's a real needy thing.
if somebody wants us to go pressure wash it once a week,
Right.
It's like an outdoor water feature.
Let's turn it into a fountain.
Or if one of them can't get wet or something.
right, or needs to be waxed or.
So what's the next step for this group? I see every month it's update. What, when do we take some action and what's the next deal?
Has the city, excuse me, has the city looked at some of those locations are utility access points? I mean, are they okay with that stuff being in their way?
We talked about that. I had that concern as well, and I guess what the conclusion we came to is, you know, depending on the size or what was involved, we wouldn't obviously want to set them on those manholes and those outlooks or anything like that. So,
Because from that liability thing, if something is sitting there and you hit it with those extraction machines or something when you're in those sewers, that was just, I'm sure.
well, or if there was an emergency and you had to get to it, obviously you don't want your access hindered, so.
Sorry to interrupt you.
So where do we go from here? I'm basically in favor of this, but, what are the final agreements?
What do you want the cultural center's role to be? Do you wanna choose the sculptures? Do you wanna?
I think they should choose the
Okay.
sculptures.
I agree.
We don't want to start to choose the sculptures. And they should solicit that, they should get the funding for it, If they have to pass it through the city, that's fine, but then they should be responsible for getting the funding.
And the spaces that have been chosen already, are those something that you feel that you need to see where that is, or that city staff has to be okay with them?
I think I guess as this thing moves forward, if there's a general area picked and then you have an idea what's gonna fit in there should be a final, we just don't wanna be covering up manholes or, impeding plowing or, anything of that nature.
Well, you wanna know whether or not the cultural center should make a recommendation, because that's some of the language you have in here, would make recommendations to Park and Rec Commission for a sculpture to be exhibited. You're asking if we wanna be involved in that?
Right. I mean, they're gonna go through and kind of, and then I think the idea was that then somehow you still have some control over once it's ready to go, that, okay, yeah, and whether you do or not. I mean, I think, but to the extent that you trust them to,
Well, you've got a Park and Rec Commission member on the cultural committee. Is what it,
There is?
well, it says the group shall contain one Park and Rec Commission, and
We'd have to appoint
Mr.
one.
Lucas just indicated
I
that
think
that might be part of the
could be a good
membership,
idea.
so. And I think.
So at least you're represented
Chad's
on that.
pretty interested. I'm on the pool thing, I
Yeah.
can't do pool.
That means Greg and I are out too.
Kelly's
out.
So it's either
Chad or
Jim or
Jim.
Chad.
I think Matt,
Here tonight.
I think Matt is the one to decide.
Here, bacon guy here, he's.
Well, that's a recommendation, I don't think that's a requirement.
I do think it's important that Park and Rec Commission weighs in on what's placed there. I think to the extent where we're selecting from 5, no.
Well, could it just be a presentation to the Park and Rec to show us what's coming?
Yeah,
I mean, that would be.
at that point,
And at that point, before that, Matt looks at it and comes and says, yeah.
Yeah, if we know dimensions and what we're looking at, we can, and then you pick the spot you want it, we'll just do a check on that spot and give it a yay or a nay.
I mean, it would be nice to see what's
Right, I think our,
coming or where it's going.
maybe the intent would be that the the sculpture park committee would solicit the pieces, select the pieces, then come here and say, here are the 5 we want, and maybe we would have 2 extras. And if you say as a committee, piece A we don't like, let's see what your backups are, so that we would come here with, our recommendation and ask for your approval.
That sounds good.
That sounds reasonable.
Sounds appropriate.
Then somebody doesn't have to be on the, because this, like, from what I just heard.
We don't want to spend time.
That's fine.
Especially if it's coming back here, I think that's the concern, would be a
Right, because-
location.
Because it is city land, so we do need some city approval, I think.
Sure. That's, sounds good.
What's your timeline, Jim? Are you gonna get your committee together and, push to have these sculptures in the parks, end of May, June, next summer?
I
spring?
think at this point, right, we would like a few months to get solicitations out and then be ready for, as soon as it's thawed in the spring, that there could be flat spots with either mulch or a block of concrete or something that we can, so that when the artist is notified that they're responsible for installation, they know what surface they're attaching to.
Will we see a clean copy of this, Sue, or,
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if anybody else wants to or not. Maybe we
Clean
don't
up
want
out the
to.
orange highlight.
Well, I had questions. Happened to be what I was using to read.
Halloween, that's very festive.
I just had a,
My English paper in school.
Yeah, that's your English paper, actually.
I didn't have a copy of it.
I just had a one question on this terminology issue. It says on a sale of the sculpture, upon a sale of the artwork, it must remain on its site through the duration of the exhibit. And then in the exhibition period, I'm assuming that the exhibition period may be shortened or extended in duration by mutual agreement. If he sells it right away, he doesn't want to keep it on there. He doesn't have to keep it on there.
Yeah, I
That's
think-
mutual
yeah.
agreement.
I think you would make if the piece sells while it's being exhibited, that it has to stay there for those 2 years, or whatever that rotation is, so that the committee doesn't have to go and find a replacement.
Suppose you could always do something where the artist pays back the honorarium or so, I mean, if they were desperate to
Right.
have the piece moved.
Someone said I just gotta have that.
Yeah, that's all I was thinking of. If they
Or
wanted
have that person.
Just gotta have it.
to take it back overseas with them or something.
Well, and that's why it said it, you could agree that it could be
I
released
suppose you
sooner.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is it's an exhibition for a period of time, and yeah, maybe you can sell some of them, and that's great, but they understand that it's, part of it is that it's gonna stay there.
I think
It's not
there's
just gonna be a
commission.
rolling inventory of things as much as it is.
Collection.
Yeah, right.
I guess I have a question, I guess it probably isn't necessarily our problem, but say something gets put out there and somebody wants it and it's sold, and I don't know if the money is exchanged at that time or when it's picked up, but let's say it's exchanged at that time. I don't care what material it's made of, if it's outside, there's degradation involved. So in 2 years from what it looked like originally to when they picked it up, I mean, is that an issue that has to be dealt with by somebody in cases like that?
Well, I think we're pulling out most of the maintenance from the city, right? I mean, this, because the template that was used said that the city was responsible for maintenance, so I think my intent is that these be 2-year cycles. So you're right, there is potential for something, for example, to rust in 2 years.
Mhm.
I think that's between the artist and the buyer. If it's 2 years later and they say, take it back to the shop and buff it up or something, that's.
Okay.
Where are we gonna put these things
So
again?
where,
Sorry.
Really?
I wasn't sure
Garfield
if I was-
Garfield Street.
Garfield
right away.
Street,
well, there were about 5 places between here and I think the expressway.
Okay, great, just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah, I think the last, didn't we talk, a couple of the lookouts? And I don't know if we prioritize those locations at this point, or just had a few to choose from, but.
Eighth Avenue Plaza.
Eighth Avenue Plaza.
Yeah.
Pay for the.
Yeah.
Do it.
You can put some lights on them then.
Would you have
Like 12 of them
there, certain sculptures would look
Just
better, I mean, be placed, or would you
You
just
could.
bring them and say, these are the
Just throw them on the
sculptures we're
grass, so
thinking
Matt has the
of,
weed whacker.
I think we'd recommend because
That'd make me
some
happy.
of
or
those,
just visually, they're gonna be better in some
Plant
places.
flowers.
I think that's right, and some are, if it's a bigger sculpture, might need a bigger flat spot physically to be attached, so.
So is, have you been to Wassa on Stewart Avenue, I think it is, lately? They got all those
Birds.
metal
The
birds
cranes.
and whatever.
That's the
Is that
same.
kind of similar to what it could be?
Hopefully
Could
not.
be, could be.
I mean, a certain artist could
yeah.
have something like that.
At least the situation, hopefully not.
Other than we wouldn't be jurying, right? I mean, that was the city of Wausau, the commission juried them, I think, right? That
I
was the
think one
controversy.
person, I
Or
think.
one
they-
person, I mean, there was controversy, but,
I think one person picked somebody that happened to be a friend, and it was a pretty big commission.
but they owned them though, the city owned, or somebody
Yeah,
owned them,
right.
they're permanent, not,
They're not.
They are
Right.
permanent.
Permanent.
that was just the one, I think, distinction I don't think it would be bad.
I like
Paid
them.
for them, they paid for them.
They paid a lot more.
Jim, you should get in the business and make birds.
Bird City.
Yeah. We could get a bird.
Well, I think Marshfield has some of Clyde Winia's stuff in their boulevards. The Jurassic Park guy, you know him?
Are those permanent?
I think so. Well, when Highway, whatever, 10 or
Veterans Parkway.
13, yeah, 13, and I can't tell what's what anymore, but just before you cross the main street in Marshfield, there's one of his big things in the median there.
They look nice.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows, we might like one so much, we wanna move it to a spot and keep it.
Yeah, I think some of these could be permanent eventually.
So any further discussion? Is there action on this update or is it
Well, if
just
you want
the update?
to approve the general agreement and guidelines, and then I will clean it up based on the revisions that you talked about and send it all to you, and I don't know whether you want to approve it at the next meeting or just kind of agree to it and then with the minor revisions, and then it's, you know, I can send it to you, and if you have an issue with it, you can, I guess, talk about it in the next meeting. It doesn't really matter to me.
Well, I'm sure
How you want
that
to do it.
you, Jim, or you'd like some type of, something quick on this too, so that you have time to,
Right, I think what kind of we've been waiting for is just for this agreement to get pinned down, and if that gets pinned down and we know that
Yeah.
it's realistic that this will move ahead,
okay.
then we'll start working on that request for submissions, and I guess probably put a committee together first. you
Right.
know.
I would move to approve the agreement and guidelines and/or guidelines for temporary public exhibition of sculptures with revisions as discussed.
Second.
Is that
Oh.
covered?
Okay.
Sure.
The motion was made by Colleen and seconded by Chad Rowe to move forward with your agreement. Patch it up accordingly per the revisions here, or however you want me to phrase that, Mary.
Revisions for the city attorney as discussed.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have that. Thank you, Jen. Sue?
Thanks, Kelly.
We move along to number 7. We discuss the zoo parking lot estimates.
We do have an update on that.
Thanks, Jim.
I'd like to get a kind of a revised drawing from engineering yet on that, but basically what we're looking at, if you're looking at increasing the lot like we talked about on that original drawing, and we talked about some striping, pavement marking, some signage, some rubber vehicle curb stops, and then paving out to that other parking lot, and then doing some repair work on those overlays, heating it up so it'd be a smooth transition. And less seal coat, we just threw that in there in case we'd want to go with the option of seal coating the whole thing, so it'd be a little more uniform looking between some of the older pavement and the newer pavement. The total is 27,372. And then the seal coating option would be 3,268.88.
And again, the extent is, this is right after the driveway ends? Or,
Basically, as you're coming in on the driveway, there would be some signage changes as you're coming in and some striping changes, but that pavement would be the existing pavement. The changes would be in the actual parking area itself, and then the driveway from the parking area to the upper parking lot.
the water hole, you're saying?
Yes, the water hole would actually be a
Would
road,
be paved, okay.
yes.
And then the other gravel area to the west would remain?
That would remain, but it would have some defined parking areas. There'd probably be, we talked about a row of the stops up there as
Okay.
well.
But we're gonna pave it or not?
That was, I believe, not paving the upper lot.
We're beginning some discussion about dealing with unpaved parking lots around town, and I'm just concerned about
Well,
setting
yeah,
the bar if
the-
we're gonna
The
ask
reason,
people to pave.
I think the question, Mayor, on that upper parking lot was the drainage.
Oh.
And that was what we were a little concerned with. When you pave over X amount of square feet, then you have some drainage issues that you have to resolve.
Mhm.
I think that was part of the problem.
Okay, it's more of an overflow anyway, it's not.
Correct, that would not be a primary parking lot.
Is that what people park to do their walking?
There's usually a car or two there for walking the trail, correct?
So then that would eliminate a lot of the park, I would assume on the grass, up close to the trees.
Well, that's part of the problem. When there's a larger event there, nobody knows where they're supposed to be
Yeah.
going. And so they're parking every which way, and we've had a couple people hit those rocks that are there. And then once it gets congested like that, the people that are trying to walk across to Helen's house, there's really no defined area where you cross, there's no defined areas to park, there's no speed, zone to speak of, or that type of thing, so. We're just trying to clean it up, make it a little safer and increase the size of the lot, basically.
So you need approval tonight, or is this just discussed?
I guess at this point, we've got some numbers, do we want, how do you feel about this? Is this something that, at this price point and with the amount of work that we've done, you're comfortable with, where we could go forward with the recommendation to do this?
I think at the last meeting, or it was a few meetings ago, we wanted to prioritize, and I think Tom, Alderman Realm mentioned something about this was gonna be a priority of all the parks, if I recall.
Should be, I think so.
And that's how I interpret that.
Parking
too, I
is
thought.
safe.
If you'd like, now that we've got some of these numbers, I could have engineering do a better drawing, if you'd like to look at that before we do final approval. I could get that for the next month's meeting, and if you wanna give it final approval then, to move forward with this, make a motion, whatever, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I apologize for missing last month's meeting. I would like to just see the plans
Okay.
myself.
I'll see if they can, now that we've got some numbers, we can,
But I agree with Tom, you got the Helen's house, the zoo and everything. It's nice if everything was tip-top shape.
I would utilize facility.
That's used
So
on
park it
every
out.
parking's
weekend.
always an issue over there when, in the summer.
We're parked all over in the grass. Road.
Do you want me to make a motion then to bring it back to next month with the
With
appropriate drawings?
with the
and,
drawing, sure.
Final estimates from engineering?
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Alderman World, second by Commissioner Colleen to,
Kelly,
yes, Tom?
no, when is the next meeting, I guess, and then would this be something to look at for next year?
Right.
I guess where would the money be, because with the budget being
I
acted upon.
I think what we're gonna be looking at here would be hotel motel.
Okay. That's right.
Well, I don't think we're making a motion to approve the expenditure, just
Not-
that there are further drawings.
Yep.
The drawings.
Correct.
Right, no, my question was, because our budget to be approved the next month
Right.
before your next meeting.
Right.
It's on the 18th and the.
Yeah, I think the intent with this was gonna be
Yeah.
hotel motel.
There's a possibility there won't be a meeting next month unless it was earlier, right? That-
I think in the past, sometimes
We
with
did.
the November and December,
December.
they've had it that first week in December because of the
Correct.
holidays.
Yes, okay. Okay, anyway, there's a motion on the floor then to further, to at the next Park Rec meeting, Matt will have a plan outlay of what we're talking about here with these expenditures. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. I think we can go into the bills. I think they've been looked at.
Bills are good, but,
I just, and Matt, in your report, you mentioned about repairs to the skate park, 75% complete. Are we starting to run into problems there?
We've had, what they call the skate light, the material that's put on top of the actual
Okay.
structure, that stuff is deteriorating.
How many
We,
years old is that place now?
I believe that was installed in 2003.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I wanna say 2003, Jim.
So it's starting to cost a few dollars.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It's heavily utilized.
It's
Kids
heavily
there
utilized.
all the time.
I'm just gonna throw it out there that I'm gonna suspect we'll be changing 3 to 4 panels every year.
Okay.
They crack, they chip out, they break, and we try to shut it down now. I believe we've set the last day this year for next Thursday. With the fear being when it gets cold, that stuff gets brittle and then it just, it shatters, so.
It's been cold.
The kids would just assume that we have it open year round, but, it's just not practical to do that, so.
Do you have something about the bills?
yeah, no, that was his question.
Yeah.
Bills look good to me. I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion made by Chad, seconded by Jim to accept the bills report. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Ayes have it. When we move into the staff reports, Mary?
Handed out both of the, Matt had a written report and I did as well. Do you need a copy? Do I need a copy?
I'm just wondering.
No, I'm good to go. We're basically almost through our fall, some of our fall programs and stuff. In the process of replacing a couple of employees that resigned kind of last minute, and volleyball leagues and stuff are gonna be up and running November 4th, we start. And we got our big pumpkin hunt, our annual pumpkin hunt this Thursday at Witter Field at 7:15. And I'll be attending the WPRA convention next week, and we start our winter registration December 1st for all our other programming. So fall is now officially done.
Any questions of Mary or? Thank you.
As you can see on the report, the Poplar Springs project is pretty much completed. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go up there and look at it since it was done, but I think it turned out fairly well. We removed a couple pieces of old equipment. The new equipment was installed, the perimeter and the sand, and then we put new chains and seats on the existing swing set. And it looks pretty good, and from what I understand, the neighbors in that area are pretty happy, so. It turned out well. It looks nice, so if you have a chance, just take a drive by and take a peek at it. We just completed a fall tree planting. The area was along First Street, basically from the dam down to Jackson Street Bridge. There's a few more that need to be planted yet that just came in. It's a project that engineering's doing along Riverwood, where they had to cut some trees down. Water and Light wanted them cut down because they were getting close to the wires, some of the main transmission lines along Riverview. Those just showed up today, so that'll happen here sometime within the next week. So that's it for the tree planting. Said we're running an auction right now with some surplus city equipment, and I think we'll have enough stuff to run one more after this one's completed. And we're doing a little improvement work at the Mead softball bathrooms. They were starting to look pretty rough, and so they got some paint work done and some repairs to the sinks, and some various miscellaneous stuff to make them more pleasant. And obviously, if you looked around, the leaf pickup is in full swing right now, and
Well, you keep planting trees, so.
yeah. It's been kind of a strange year because normally we'd be a lot farther around along at this point of the year, but the trees, a lot of them were still full up to a couple days ago. So don't know how it's gonna go this year, how far we're gonna get before the snow flies, but we'll keep at it as long as we can. And Whitterfield grandstands, actually all the seats are out now. And half of it's been blasted, primed, and the final coat will be going on, weather permitting, here within the next couple days, and then they'll start on the other half.
Maybe a different color this time or?
Actually, it'll be multicolor. The seating area, what I'm gonna call the seating area, the aluminum planks and the seats will stay the same. The area that you stand on, the actual metal structure, is a gray. And the stairways will be cranberry again. This time they'll have a non-skid material in the paint itself. And so hopefully the steps will be a little, when they were wet, that was a problem before, is they were slippery and there were some falls. So the entire step area will have a non-skid material in the paint. So that's coming along, as Jim alluded to before. We did some work at the skate park. I probably have, I'd say 3 more sheets that have to be changed yet. I don't know if we'll get them in this year or it'll be spring yet, but then we'll be in pretty good shape over there. Winterization, if any of you have seen the forecast Friday morning, it's supposed to be 20 degrees, so we pulled the last 2 meters today, and we will be winterizing those facilities tomorrow, and that'll complete our winterization for the year. And we also have our plow route list have pretty much been compiled, and we'll be starting on the tree work on the street routes and setting up low board hockey and preparing the ice rink here all within the next couple weeks. So we got a lot of work to do yet. Christmas decorations also have started, so.
You're doing hockey rinks at both places again this year?
There'll be low board at Robinson, and there'll be open skating at
Woodard.
Well,
Same as in
Same
the
as
past.
past.
It's been that way for,
And they had talked about not having hockey or rinks there, right, or didn't they, at one time?
there was a request a number of years ago to set up a hockey rink at Whittier.
Woodard,
That kind of fell by the wayside.
Okay,
Anybody have any questions?
any questions of Matt? Thank you, good job, thanks. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
all right, great. Motion by Chad, second by Greg. To adjourn, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Chad's
Nice
always too
have it.
fast for this.
Thank you.